When they arrived at Cathcart's Hill, Lucy was surprised by how many people were already there. Most of them were the tourists that she had been told about, training their opera glasses and telescopes on the distant fortified city of Sevastopol. Mary had a telescope too, and she handed it to Sally, who surveyed the distant panorama and then passed it to Lucy. Lucy looked through the telescope with trepidation. She trained it first on the city walls, glowing white in the sunshine, puffs of smoke showing when cannons fired. Then she looked at the 2 fortified encampments protecting the city. "Over there, that hill is called the Malakoff," said Mary, following the line of Lucy's telescope. "The French will attack it, and the British will attack the other one, the Redan." Lucy then looked at the lines of trenches dug out of the barren earth where the soldiers were sheltering. They weren't safe because the Russians were raining down mortar shells on them. The longer Lucy looked, the more of a sense of dread she felt. "Oh no!" exclaimed Lucy as she witnessed a large explosion and saw soldiers tossed in the air. There was a ripple of excitement from the tourists, but Lucy turned her back and handed the telescope to Mary. She had just seen people die. Lucy felt sorrow for the soldiers and disgust for the tourists. She also felt guilty. It was almost as though her curiosity had caused the death of those soldiers. That was the last time she looked through the telescope, and she rarely even looked in the direction of Sevastopol again. Lucy studied other people on the hill. The tourists were in a group, wearing fine clothes and with servants waiting on their needs. They were obviously from the upper echelons of society. Mary immediately went to work selling drinks to them. Any refusals didn't perturb her, as she knew that the sun would be hot later in the day and people would change their minds. A few irritated army officers were attempting to make sure that the tourists kept out of harm's way. A group of women clustered together on the hill, deep in conversation. Lucy could hear English accents, Irish accents and Scottish accents, but their appearance was remarkable. Their clothes were filthy, tattered and torn. Their faces were burnt brown by the sun, some darker than Mary's. Their hair was dirty and matted, and most wore bonnets, but, very unusually for Victorian society, others were bareheaded. Lucy realised they were not there for the thrill of the battle. These must be soldiers' wives, and they were there because they were worried about their husbands.